Hello and welcome, I'm On. In this video I'll be taking on Wayward 1 on Extinction mode. Wayward 1 is a nifty little nemesis that has this position chart over here, which means when it has this tracker. So when it's, which means that it becomes aligned to the breach number that is out on. So here's line to breach 1, 2, 3, 4. And different minions are also specified that they are aligned to certain breaches. It's only when you cast a spell from a aligned breach that you deal full damage from that spell. Otherwise, you will deal half on normal mode. But here we are playing with increased difficulty, which means that they will always deal 1 damage instead of half rounded up. Here we have the rules describing what's going on. So whenever it unleashes, it shifts position. So it goes always from right to left, so to the right, and then it goes back up to 1 after 4. When it unleashes, you check if you have any spell there that's aligned now. You may discard it. If you don't, Gravehold suffers 3 damage. Yeah, and you only need to have the spell prepped to at least the aligned breach in order for the spell to be aligned. And everything else is misaligned. So during setup, yeah, we set up the Wayward position chart and put it on position 1. And I think that's pretty much everything there is to explain with the Wayward one. It's pretty straightforward when it comes to that, but it can be quite frustrating to deal with during gameplay because I have my spell aligned, so if I just go next, I can deal some damage, but no, it unleashed and moved to the next breach, and now they're misaligned, so I cannot deal damage I wanted to. But that's gameplay wise. To take it down, we are playing with Jian. Specifically, we're playing Jian, I don't exactly remember how to pronounce her name, but it's somewhere around there. You're gonna hear me mispronounce it for the whole video, I think. Unfortunately, I'm very sorry about that. But we're playing her for Black Mirror ability. Activate during the main phase, cast any player's prep spell without discarding it, then cast that prep spell again and discard it afterwards. We are using this ability because we can immediately prep the spell and then cast it as soon as we prepped it. That way we do not need to wait another turn in order for it to be cast. And that way we do not risk it moving out of position and thereby the spell being misaligned. So that's why we are playing Jian. She also has the Moonstone shard, which helps getting gems. Gain 1 ether, gain additional ether that can only be used to gain a gem. So, well, it's only really helpful for turn 1, but it's to make up for the 4 sparks, which are also very helpful. She has 4 sparks in total, which means that we have a lot of sparks that we can prep and discard whenever we need to reduce the damage from the unleashes. So that way we can, basically every spark becomes a free HP to Gravehold in a sense. So that way we can keep Gravehold healthy. To partner up with Jian, we have Lash. More or less we are using Lash for his ability as well. Quicken Thought. Activate during any player's main phase. Shuffle any player's turn order card into the turn order deck. That player suffers 1 damage. You may not choose the wild card turn order card. And this is basically because Jian, with her ability to double cast the spell, is going to be a hyper carry. So the more turns she can take, the more damage she can deal. Like, she's gonna be so high potent, she can be so high potent late game that by giving her 2 extra turns, she can basically just wipe the floor with Wayward 1. And the ability to gain another turn to the other mage compounds really quickly, because the more turns they have, the more they can scale. So it helps Jian to scale really well, get the spells she needs and fire them off. And On top of that, that also helps getting in between turns, so we don't have the misalignment issue that kind of thing. He also has the Quartz Shot. Gain 1 ether, reveal the top card of the turn order deck. You may place that card at the bottom or the top of the turn order deck. If you reveal a player turn order card, gain an additional ether. First of all, turn 1 you have like 2 out of 3 games where you have 5 ether that way, so you can buy a burning opal or something like that, which kind of makes you a lot stronger throughout the game. Other times you're just going to have 4 ether and buy a double jade, which is fine too. But more importantly, throughout the game, you're going to have turns where it's like, oh, you reveal the top card. I would prefer to go after the Nemesis, so you put them at the bottom of the deck, or you're happy to see the mage now, so you put them at the top. You keep them at the top, and you get the extra ether. Sometimes you reveal a Nemesis turn order card, and you're like, yeah, I would like you to go next, or I do not want you to go next, so you get that extra control for how the turn is gonna turn out, how the round is gonna turn out, which is pretty nifty, especially late game where there can be so many threats out, or you might just need one more turn to win, and then you see Nemesis like, oh, nope, go next, go late, and you just win before they're revealed. So that's super nice. For the supply, we have Jade, because both Jian and Lash wants to have a lot of ether. They want to have 7 ether in their third hand to buy the spell that we're gonna look at later, but also gonna keep the ether to charge up their ability consistently. So that's why we're having Jade. They're both gonna go for double Jade, or well, a burning opal for Lash. Gain 3 ether, you may discard a card in hand. If you do, any ally draws a card. Helps Jian go through her deck really nicely, especially with Quartz Shot. Sometimes that's gonna have a floating ether, and then you're just gonna turn that floating ether, which is gonna be a crystal, into a card draw for Jian, so that's pretty nice. We have Clouded Sapphire, we're not gonna use that. We have Bottle Vortex, you saw that in the recent games. I suppose, yeah, it speaks for itself. It's just like 3 ether, destroy 2 cards in your deck. More or less. Destroy this, destroy up to 2 cards in your hand, or discard pile, draw a card. It's so OP. It helps getting rid of some of the sparks for mid to late game for Jian. So when you buy the new spells, they're not gonna be too many spells in her hand without being able to prep them. We have Temporal Helix, cast any player's prep spell without discarding it, 7 ether. Quite nice. Like, it's probably gonna be like the last card you draw or buy. Like, you calculate, oh, I need that much damage, like let's just buy Temporal Helix, put it into our deck, and then draw it to hopefully win the game with it. It's not gonna be a mainstay. I'm probably not gonna buy it. For spells, I have Spectral Echo, 3 ether, cast, deal 2 damage, you may destroy a card in hand. Pretty good spell, probably not gonna buy it. It helps to get rid of sparks and crystals early game and to thin out the deck, and it's fine. 6 ether, Planetary Insight, cast, deal 2 damage, deal 1 additional damage for each of your open breaches, just for late game damage in case I need it. Like, we have so many other spells we want to buy. Well, we have one other spell we want to buy. Wildfire Whip, saw that in our recent game series as well. 6 ether, while prep, during your main phase you may spend 2 ether to cast any player's prep spell, cast, deal 4 damage. Same principle as Temporal Helix. Just like at the end game, check, oh, we're close to the end, so let's just buy a Wildfire Whip. Hopefully we'll see it and blast it off on our last turn to deal that extra 4 or 5 damage. And here we have the main attraction for this game, Sage's Brand. This spell must be prepped to 2 adjacent breaches so that this card touches both breaches. This fully occupies both breaches. And that's more or less why we are using it. Because that way you can prep it to 1 breach, and then even if Wayward 1 moves 1, it's likely that you will still be aligned to it. So that way you're gonna keep it for longer in range. Also able to be prepped to both third and fourth breach, getting that extra damage, or even third and second breach, still getting extra 1 damage, as if it were just in third breach, but aligned to second breach. While prepped, draw an additional card during a draw phase. If you keep it prepped, you're gonna draw an extra card. At the end of your turn, keep it prepped. I mean, like Jian is gonna blast it off with her ability, but it's gonna be fine. We're gonna buy 2 Sage's Brand with her, so she's likely to always have 1 prepped and then 1 that she blasts off. Cast, deals 6 damage. Pretty alright damage. A bit low for 7 cost, but I guess you draw a card on it, so it's probably fine. Probably fine. And yeah, and of course we are playing on Extinction mode. So as I mentioned, that means we are playing with increased difficulty, but also the Nemesis has 10 extra lives, so instead of 60, it now has 70. Greyhole has 5 less HP, so 25. Both mages are from down to 8 HP from 10, so 2 less on each. And yeah, that's everything, so I'll just reset this and let's get into the game. So let's get into round 1. We're starting off with Lash. So, well, it's gonna be 3 out of 5 to see a mage on top to get the 5 ether. And we see Jian. And actually, we wanna keep her for last in case we see Hastebearer, I think it's called. The one with 5 HP life, and then it deals damage to Greyhole equal to its own life. So that way we're at least likely, yeah, to deal with it. Good, so that's 5 ether, prepping that spark. And for the 5, we're gonna buy that burning opal I was talking about in introduction, which allows us to, well, have 3 ether on 1 gem and helps drawing some cards for Jian. I suppose that's pretty good. Pretty good start. Oh, we see her again, so that was good that we kept her for last. Yep, so prepping the 2 sparks for Jian, and then we have 4 ether for 2 jades. And it's gonna be it. So that way we have 7 ether for Sage's Brand, so we can begin having the high spells. We're gonna see Nemesis. Yep, there we have it. And we have Linking Terror. 6 HP, life. This minion is aligned to Breach 3. So that was talking about. Each of the minions from this Wayward one has a breach that is aligned to. So in this case it's Breach 3. Every other spell is only gonna deal 1. Only breaches aligned to Breach 3 will only spells aligned to Breach 3 will deal full damage. Persistent, any player loses 1 charge or suffers 2 damage. Yeah, pretty damaging. Now, so early on, we're probably not gonna have the charges that we need. So likely we're gonna suffer a lot of HP, which, yeah, we already like technically suffered 4, so that can be quite harsh. And we have Lash. Yeah, so we're gonna use that spark to at least bring it down to 5 HP. And we are kind of forced to just use our free ether to open up our second breach to prep the sparks there. We can't really, we could keep a spark in hand and buy a charge, but I think it's better to just move on and yeah, see how it goes. We see Nemesis again. Yeah, that makes sense because Jian is the next. Right, so we don't have any charges, so a player suffers 2, so that's going to be Lash over here. Hopefully we're not going to suffer too much damage because we want to keep some life on Jian for the quickening thought effect, so we can get some extra turns for her. And we have Skewer. Unleash, any player suffers 3 damage and draws a card. Alright, so actually let's just draw the hands up. 3, 4, 5. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So it wouldn't hurt Lash to draw that extra card, which would be a spark. Over here, it would be the Jade, so we would have 5 ether in hand, and we don't really want that because then we wouldn't have the 7 ether hand next turn. So Lash is gonna take that. It's not gonna hurt him as much. Sometimes like the draws are really bad because it brings the deck out of cycle. So that's what's going on here. All right, Skewer is discarded, and we go on to the next turn. So Jian, so we're gonna use the 2 sparks to bring down Blinking Terror to 3, prepping 2 sparks, and then for 3 ether we're gonna buy a Bottled Vortex. And that's gonna be it for round 1. Hopefully round 2 is not gonna go as bad. Might have to suffer a lot of 8 damage because Blinking Terror, if that goes twice, that's already 4 damage. So yeah, we'll see how that goes. Let's shuffle up and go to round 2. So let's see what round 2 has in store for us. Immediately we see Nemesis go and Blinking Terror. That damage is gonna go to Jian over here. 6 life remaining. Because we don't want to Lash go down to the 1 just yet. And we draw Agony Field. To discard, destroy a card in hand that costs 2 or more. Power to unleash. Any player discards 3 cards in hand and then draws 1 card. Yeah, that's probably gonna be fine. Especially since we can just discard our sparks this early on to mitigate the damage from the unleashes when it shifts a position, so on a position chart. So yeah, it's probably fine to have that unleash right now. And all right, so we see Lash. What do we want to do? 3. Okay, dokie. So what we want to do is only use 1 spark. Do we even want to do that? No. So what I think we want to do is we're going to use Burning Opal to discard the spark from hand. So that way we don't have any spells in hand. And we don't have anything to risk there. So that way we can buy Sadie's Brand 7 ether and have it for our next hand immediately. I think that's what's going to happen. So 3, 4, 7. Yeah. Let's check with Quartz Shard first. Always use Quartz Shard first to check what's on a Nemesis deck, and that way we can know what to discard if in other cases with Burning Opal, if you want us to discard or not. Let's check what's there. We have Jian, and we want to see Jian next, so we have a chance to deal with Blinking Terror sooner. Or buy a charge, whatever. Good, so we have 8, but we only need 7, so. And Burning Opal. Oh, in that case, we could have gone with Jian drawing the card last turn, because then the extra Jade would have been in hand, but we couldn't have known that. So, all right, so Burning Opal, gonna discard that spark for Jian to draw that card. That's a spark. That's fine. And then Sadie's Brand for 7. And discard that hand. And that's it for Lash. We have Jian, so I think the same principle applies. No. But as long as we just take 1 spark, both of them can take it out next turn, so we're just gonna do that to not have too many spells running through the deck, slowing it down. Down to 2. Prepping that spark. And then for 7, we're gonna buy that Sadie's Brand, risking that damage from Blinking Terror, but I think we have to move on. We have to upgrade our deck and scale to actually get to deal with it later on. So I think that's the best way forward. Good. And yeah, so we have Lash. So that's the 2 sparks, taking off the Blinking Terror. Pretty nice, pretty good. Not gonna suffer any more damage from that. free ether from the crystals, gonna focus our third breach. And so far, Wayward 1 is over here. So we're gonna prep it here so it can be cast and deal extra damage to it, deal full damage to it. And then on the focus breach, we're gonna prep the spark. And that's it for Lash. Right, so what we're gonna have now, Jian, that's fine. Good, so we're gonna use one spark, deal 1 damage. So the first damage to the Nemesis, the Wayward 1, has been dealt. And we're gonna use Bottle Vortex to destroy that spark from our discard pile and that spark as well. And then we're gonna draw 1 empty deck, so we're gonna flip over our discard pile and draw from the top. And there we have Sage's Brand. Yeah. That spark had to be used as well, so it's not mattering for the deck. 68. And then we do the same over here and free ether to focus our third breach, prepping that spark. Removing those. Yep, and that's it. Let's see what the Nemesis has in store. 1 Agony Field goes to 1. Oh yeah. Problem now is that we don't have a spark prep to our second breach that could mitigate the damage to Gravehold, but so far it's healthy, but we only round 2, so anyway. Irradiate. Any player suffers 2. Any player discards a misaligned prep spell. Okay, so that's gonna be Jian over here going down to 4. We don't have a lot more HP for the Quicken Fort. That's problematic. Any player discards a misaligned spell. Well, that could be either of them, so it's just gonna be Jian over here. It's fine, that's pretty good timing for that, I would say. It looks alright so far, so let's shuffle up and see what round 3 has in store for us. Oh shoot, yeah, so both Jian and Lash should have drawn an extra card at the end of the draw phase, so now we at 6. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. That's the hand. We flip over our discard pile and draw an additional card. I always forget the draws. I don't know why, but at least I caught it in time, in good time, I guess, before doing all that. All right, so let's shuffle up and go to round 3. Round 3. We still haven't dealt a lot of damage to Wayward 1, but I bet we're gonna move there soon. So we're starting off with Lash, so that's gonna be 6 damage. And 1 from the spark as well, so 7 total. Moving down to 61. And we wanna keep a spark in our second breach for that unleash that might be coming. And then we have 3, 4, 7 for sure. So we actually either we want to double down and go for a second Sage's Brand, or I actually think we want to begin opening our breaches. So let's start with Quartz Shard to check what we have over here on this guy, Nemesis. All right, so Jian, in this case there might be some minions we want to deal with, so let's put Jian at the bottom. So to have some time to deal with those. But that means we have 8 ether, so that's what I'm talking about with Burning Opal, that floating ether. Instead we're just going to discard the crystal, so let Jian draw an extra card. Flipping over the discard pile. And that's going to help with both the hands, so that's 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 cards, so that's a good next turn. But it also helps with the flow of the deck, because the Sage's Brand's now gonna get through the deck sooner, which can be quite helpful. Good. So that's the 7 ether. And I think we're just gonna open up our 4th breach, so we are ready for that. That's gonna be it for Lash. Oh, yeah, good thing that we kept that. So that's going to be Sage's Brand for 6 damage. Moving down to 55, so at least we are dealing some damage. That's the first 15. Good. Prepping a spark in the second breach as well, I guess. Let's wait. So that's 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 ether. Could buy another Sage's Brand. Or was it actually good? 3, 4, we wouldn't have... yeah, we would have too many spells there, so... 8. Actually, we might just wanna focus our breaches, to be honest. Yeah, let's just do focuses here for 8 ether total, trapping that spark there and see what happens. Moving on to the Nemesis. Yeah, the Nemesis. So Agony Field trigger, so that's an Unleash. Going to Breach 2. Can discard that Spark from Lash over here to mitigate the damage to Gravehold. And any player discards 3 cards in hand and draws a card. What would be the next? That would be Spark. We don't really want that over here. Though we could, I suppose, but we prefer not to. Should have put the Jades even further down, maybe? No, because now we can just... Now we'll be free, and then we have free ether. Yeah, I guess that could work. So discarding those 2 crystals and a spark, and drawing 1 jade. Cool. And that's the Agony Field over. Let's move on to Banesire. Persistence, Unleash. 6 life. So that's why I wanted the Sage's Brand earlier to just be only for it. But we couldn't have that. Yeah. Let's see what happens now. Yeah. So it unleashes, goes to breach 3. There's no spells to discard, so we have to deal that to Gravehold, let that go through. And we have Quantum Maze. Power 2. If any player has a line spell, a player with a line spell suffers 5 damage. Power 2. Yeah, that can be quite frustrating. It only checks for the Nemesis, not the minions, I believe. Yeah, it only matters to the Nemesis, the position chart over here. That's fine. Alright, let's move on to Lash. So, yeah, we actually don't want to prep it to third breach, I guess. Or we kind of do, but we don't want to risk the life losing the 5 damage. But then again, there is a minion out here that is aligned to 4th breach, where we do prefer to have it over here. Sage's Brand does 6 damage on its own to Banesire. Like, no matter what, we're gonna focus that breach. Could prep it here like that. Or we could prep it like here, like that. Goes twice in a row. I don't know. Who are we gonna risk it with? Yeah, Lash gonna risk it over here. Prepping like that. And that's it for Lash. So good, and then we have Jian over here. That's gonna be that spark. That's just gonna be Wayward 1, 54. Prepping the Sage's Brand down here. And for free ether, gonna focus that breach. Yeah, so that way we actually do have the 7 still, so that's fine. Good, let's shuffle up and let's get into tier 2 in the round 4. Let's see what's gonna happen here. Wait, so we're gonna have Jian over here taking that Sadist brand, definitely taking out that minion for the 6 damage. So that's rid. We got rid of that. And for 7 ether, how does the dex stack up? 4, 5. Okay, yeah. So we can 1, 2, 3, 4. So that's only 3 to focus that. Yeah, well, I guess we do want our Sage's brands. Yeah, let's get a second one. It's fine to have that spark, extra spark in hand, because we're just gonna draw an extra card anyway. 3, 4, 5. Good. So we go on to Jian again. Actually, that's pretty terrifying. So for 3 ether, we're gonna focus that. Sage brand over here. So we know that Quantum Maze is gonna, pull off. It's gonna trigger before our next turn, because we already gone twice. It's gonna go twice in between. We don't want to suffer that 5 damage by having it in that breach. So unless it unleashes, we don't want anything prepped there. So there could be a minion, and then Quantum Maze is gonna trigger without it moving. So yeah, no, we're just gonna keep this 2 sparks in hand and draw up to 6. Yeah, so that's gonna be our next hand. It's a bit unfortunate, but it's what it is. We have Lash, so that's gonna be the 7 damage to Wayward one, going down to 47. All right, so moving down. Okay, we can keep that spark prep pretty easily. So it's spark prep to breach 4. 4, 7. We don't really need that extra ether from Quartz Shard, but let's check if we get it anyway. What's it gonna be? 1 in 3 for Lash to go next, I suppose. Oh, he did. Well, does it matter? We definitely want to go last here to just get Quantum Maze out of the way while it's prepped here. Gonna be super fine. That would be 2, 3, 4, 5, 8. I think I want to discard a crystal to let Jian draw an additional card to hopefully get extra ether and get out of the system. That'll be 3 to, it won't be charged. Well, it's what it is. 7, so that's 5 to open that, and then we can begin on charges. That's the charge number 1. Nemesis, where Quantum Maze goes down to 1. And Cauterizer. When damage is dealt to this minion, reduce that damage to 1. Persistent, any player suffers damage equal to this minion's current life. That's a really bad timing. Because if Lash, well, at least we have Lash to go after the next one, but we have to suffer that 3 damage. And Jian won't be able to use the Quaking Fort because she's the only one that can take the 3 damage. So I guess that's where we are. We have Nemesis go, so Quantum Maze, there's nothing aligned to breach 3. That's just does nothing. Cauterizer, 3 HP, so Jian goes down to 1. Of course, we could just say that I guess it wouldn't be too bad. I think the life is better to have on Jian and just take that 3 damage on Lash, because then he would exhaust, but the damage then would go on to Gravehold. So I think that actually might just be better to reserve some life here. So he what's it called? Exhausts. He goes down to 0 life. What happens now is, I forgot what order, but definitely he loses all his charges, loses a breach. So in this case, I'm just gonna lose second breach, and unleashes twice, so we go to 4th. And I think in this case, we actually want to keep the sparks so we can get cauterizers down to 1 HP next time Lash goes. So Gravel's gonna suffer 3. And I'm gonna unleash a second time, going back to first breach, and suffer 3 additional damage, so down to 16. And yeah, I think that's the best way forward. And there we have it, the Warper. 9 HP. This minion is aligned to breach 4. When a player deals damage, that player must deal damage to this minion. So unless we have them on the 4th breach, it will only suffer 1 damage. This is really bad timing, because we would really want to deal damage to cauterizers, getting rid of that, but now we have Warper that we forced to deal the damage to. So let's see how we take care of that. Good, so that's everything from Wayward 1. Going down to extra turn for Lash, so that's 2. Might as well just keep that spark. No, that has to, so that's 3 damage. Wayward is down to 6. Sage's Brand. And then 3 Ether, just gonna be that charge from before that we lost. And yeah, pretty bad round 4. Unsure if we can recover from this. It looks pretty grim. But let's see how it goes forward. So let's move on to round 5 and see what happens. Yeah, so if Nemesis goes twice in a row, I think we are pretty much done for. Well, there we have it. I still want to deal that to Nemesis, to Gravehold, I'm sorry. That's 6 damage to Gravehold, because when damage that would have been dealt to a mage is then, because all damage that would have been dealt to a mage, when they're exhausted is then transferred to the Gravehold, but doubled. So the 3 damage would become 6 damage. Warper doesn't do anything actively, so we go on to draw the next card. Unleash twice. The player with the most prep spells discard the most expensive prep spell. Yikes. So we can't even discard the spark there, because it moves onwards. So discard the Sage's Brand for the 2nd breach, and then we go on to 3rd breach, which is then this Sage's Brand, because can't really sustain the damage from suffering the damage from the Unleash, but also because the player with the most prep spell discard the most expensive prep spell. We would have to discard it either way, so that's where we're at, discarding that spark as well. And definitely doesn't look less grim now. Wow, okay. Do we suffer that? What's left? What's left? So I definitely think there is reason to believe that there are stuff that will deal additional damage to Gravehold. There's some extra unleashes in there. I think we have to suffer that on Jian at this point. So Cauterizer deals that to Jian. Warper doesn't do anything actively. And yeah, then we have to lay waste. Unleash twice. We don't have any spells left, so 1, 2, that's 6 damage. Goes down to 4 life. And then any player suffers 2 damage. Jian would go below 0 and would also exhaust. That way all mages are exhausted and we would lose. Or we can deal it to Lash and then it's transferred to Gravehold, also taking us down to 0. So I think that's done for, right? Yep. That triggers all lost conditions with either. So unfortunately we lose this game. So we'll have to redo. Could have done a lot better for us if Warper hadn't gotten out at that exact timing. If Lay Waste and Dispel wouldn't have hit us either. And maybe if I had gotten a bit better track of the deck rotation for Jian. But here we are, so I'll reset and let's try again. Thank you so much for watching and have a good day.